Good morning. Welcome to Time in His Word. I've always enjoyed movies like Rudy, the football player for Notre Dame. He was too short to play defense, but he enjoyed the position of middle linebacker. But he was too short to see over the line. But yet, the movie focuses on how, through his shortcomings, he overcame them by sheer power and determination. He wasn't going to let the defaults that he had, being too short and all of that, keep him from doing what he enjoyed and loved to do. And then we can go even farther. I've always been impressed, I guess would be a good word. Maybe not so much impressed or in awe. But anyway, I've always really found it inspiring when you see at any level a team go, if they play 13 regular games for the season, they go 13 wins and no losses. They come together as a team and they work at the ultimate goal of having an undefeated season. While on outward appearance, you cannot see the hard work in that went in to achieve that. I've had the fortune to play on some teams that were in sports that were like that. And the amount of work that goes into doing something like that is unbelievable. You spend so much time on the basics of the game and so much time on conditioning that at times you wonder if we're still going to play the game. But the reason you do that is so that, for instance, working on the basics of a game is that it becomes second nature without ever thinking. You do what needs to be done at the basic level of whatever sport you're playing. And the conditioning part is getting yourself in shape to play at that level. There's been a number of interviews I've seen with Magic Johnson and Larry Bird. I got to watch that rivalry, and I didn't understand it at the time, but I seen an interview a number of years ago where Magic Johnson said that he would repeatedly look at what the stats were for what Larry Bird's last game was. And if he spent 5 hours in the gym today, he would spend 6 hours in there tomorrow because he knew that Larry Bird was doing the same, and that was who he measured himself against on his playing level. That was his competitor. And you'll find sports figures, they'll do things like that. They'll pick somebody that is just a tad bit better than them, and they work so hard to beat them at their spot or at their game. And it almost becomes like an obsession. But their goal is to win. And that's the whole idea in sports is you want your team to win. And you're willing to put in whatever it takes to win. In Galatians, the 4th chapter, verses 7 through 9, it says, "Therefore you are no longer a slave, but a son. And if a son, then an heir through God. However, at that time when you did not know God, you were slaves to those which by nature are no gods. But now that you have come to know God, or rather to be known by God, how is it that you turn back again to the weak and worthless elementary things to which you desire to be enslaved all over again?" And I bring this passage up with the example I give is that when we become Christians, we inherit the throne of God. That's what that passage is saying when it says we're no longer a slave, but a son. And if a son, then an heir through God. So just like any sports figure will put the work into being the best at what they can do, we should be doing the same in our walk in Christ. And it's easy to get mediocre results back. put in the minimum amount of time and effort and you get the minimum amount results back. It's when you strive to be better, or maybe better is not the right word. I would, maybe when you strive to be stronger in your walk and stronger in your faith is when you see huge results from that effort. But it's just like in sports. If you want to be on a winning team, you have to put the work in. Whereas in this life in Christ, while it's not a team sport, it's still the metaphor still works the same. It's kind of like that old adage: what you put in is what you get out. And each of us learn and each of us grow at a different level. So the amount of work that I put in to achieve the results I'm wanting might not be half as much as somebody else has to do. But it's while it's while it's an individual walk, we're also part of a family of body of believers, and our whole goal is to win others to Christ. So we all have to pitch in and do our part. And so how successful you become, and that's really not a good word to use for your walk in Christ, but I can't think of another, is determined by how much you put into it, how much you want to grow and learn to have that strong walk. There's some days I'm just coasting, because especially these last 2 weeks with this cold. But then there's other days I'm all gung-ho and gangbuster. And what I enjoy most, though, is if I'm talking with somebody about Christ and they say, I want what you have. And that's just, to me, that's the ultimate compliment to my walk in Christ, is when they're interested in having what I have that makes me happy, or that helps me get through the day. They want some of that. And you can achieve that without ever saying one word, just by our actions and what we do in times of distress and trouble. So as we go through the day today, think about it. Where are you at in your walk in Christ? Are you going at it as a member of a team that wants to go 13-0, or are you just being mediocre and hoping not to get cut from the team because you're just given the minimal amount of effort to achieve your goals? So, just think about that. Where are you at, and how much effort are you putting into your walk?